Welcome. My name is Michael Mastro. Welcome to Transfornational Vedic Astrology, American Institute of Vastu.com and vastucreations.com. Today we're going to look at the chart for Ram Dass, who passed away recently. A very influential spiritual teacher in the U.S. If you were to look at the eastern horizon when he was born, you would see the constellation associated with Gemini rising at 25 degrees. 25 degrees becomes the most effective point of every house. Any planet that's close, like Sun, has quite a bit of impact, and as well as Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon. So we're going to look and see how the planets are operating, and then we're going to see how, when the planets are operating in the transits and the dasha periods, and then we're going to see what we could do to remedy the chart. So first off, with the Gemini chart, there are no malefics other than Ketu and Rahu. So let's just go through this chart here and see how the planets are operating in his chart. Sun is at 22 degrees, close to the most effective point. It is ruling the fifth sign of Leo in the third house of entrepreneurial success and business communication. He was a great speaker. And it is placed in the house of career. So career through speaking, writing, publishing. And Sun is also representing his father. He got a lot of financial support from his father, who is a very wealthy lawyer. Moon is at 14 degrees. It's debilitated. That means it's weak. And Moon and Sun represent heart. But in his situation, with that debilitated Moon, it gave him a weak heart. He had a stroke early in his life and heart condition. Now, Moon rules the house of wealth and recognition and continuation of the marital bond, the family, and it is placed in the house of conflict and health. So Moon here again affects the heart, and it also can affect the mind and emotions. So Moon in the sixth house gives a lack of peace of mind. I think this is what inspired him to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist and help bring his own peace of mind through drugs and different therapies so that he could help other people as well who were struggling. Mars is at 9 degrees. It's also debilitated. And it is, so that makes it weak. It's ruling the house of income, and again placed in the house of wealth and recognition. I think it did give him some courage to follow a very challenging path. You know, he could have just stayed a professor, but he was fired from his professorship for kind of taking a very challenging path where he introduced drugs into some studies that he was doing. Let's see here. Mercury's at 11 degrees. Mercury rules the house of happiness through family, and it is placed in the house of income ruled by Mars. So in this case, Mars is the landlord, and it is debilitated and weak. So Mercury becomes weak. And so Mercury gave speech, writing, publishing, also fascination with vehicles. This is a house of transportation and vehicles. Jupiter's at 18 degrees, close to the most effective point, and it is placed in the first house of of life purpose, and it rules the house of partnerships. So he had lots of partnerships in teaching in Harvard and with Timothy Leary and others. So Jupiter is definitely one of his strongest planets. It's well placed and it's strong. So now it's gave him partnerships that are outside the norm. So he was bisexual, and it gave him a very strong relationship with Jupiter being the guru or teacher, his guru. Venus is at 14 degrees, and it's also strong, and it is ruling the house of investments and education, placed in the house of higher education. So he had a really, Stanford and Harvard strong education. I think he got a master's or doctorate, and yeah. So those are the things about Venus. Um, Saturn is at 19 degrees. It rules the house of good fortune, and it is placed in the house of partnerships. So he got good fortune through partnerships in service. He had a lot of service organizations that were very helpful to people. Now, Rahu and Ketu are close to the most effective point. That means that they can afflict 6 out of the 12 houses. So it afflicts career, afflicts the family. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this house of death-like experiences, or research into spirituality, which he definitely did. 7, 8, 9. Then enlightenment, research into enlightenment. Then you have Rahu affecting the family. So he never really had a marriage. And then also afflicting the house of family, and 9, and then health. So he had this stroke. So this relationship of 4 to 10 work give him. Rahu gives craving, so craving for speaking and career, and aversion to the normal kind of a family. Only a large spiritual family was what he was drawn to. So let's look at the timing of events. He was born in a Saturn period. That's the root of his tree of life. And Saturn is service. So he became all about service. And then he was became a psychologist during a K2 period, K2 influencing psychology. And then he got fired from Harvard during a moon period. Moon is in the house of conflict, so there was a conflict with his job and his boss. And then he published Be Here Now, one of his first great books, during a set 1971, during a Venus Rahu period. And Rahu is career. Career really took off. And then he got a stroke in 1997 and paralyzed. So this was during a Mars-Mercury period. So Mercury is communication. So he couldn't speak after that. So natal K2 was afflicting Mercury, which is speech, in the 8th house of death-like experiences. Then he died recently, December 22nd, 2019. And if we look at the transit period at that point, we can see that, let's see here. Okay, we see that during this particular period, natal Rahu. So natal Rahu is here, and it's afflicting transiting transiting Mercury in the house of health. So ending his health, and then also afflicting the family. Saturn was at the most effective point right on top of natal Saturn, affecting the longevity. So yeah, quite a bit going on at the time of death. So what could we do to improve the chart? So only Rahu and Ketu, we would do chants and charities for the malefics. And so I think he was pretty much doing that. So you would chant Ganesh mantra for Ketu, Shiva mantra for Rahu, and then do charities for helping those who cannot help themselves. So he was doing a lot of that charity work anyway. Now, you would want to strengthen the other planets. So you would want to strengthen Sun by wearing orange clothing, or a ruby, or wearing a kavash containing a locket containing the Devata mantra for Sun, a yantra for Sun, as well as wearing green for Mercury and an emerald or kavash, wearing red for Mars, wearing red coral or a kavash, Jupiter yellow sapphire, yellow clothing or the kavash, and Venus diamond or white colors, and a kavash containing the Devata yantra for Venus. So those are the main points. He was a very beloved spiritual teacher. I got an opportunity to meet him during a large gathering where we chanted Om for several hours. And Be Here Now, which is one of his first books, is one of the very first spiritual books that I read when I was just like 16 years old. So it made a big impact on my life. So if anyone is interested in a reading or learning about Transfornational Vedic Astrology, as you can see, it's very accurate. You can learn to get certified as a Vedic astrologer at American Institute of Vastu.com, or if you go to services at vastucreations.com, you can sign up for several different kinds of astrology readings. Thank you for listening, and join us again sometime.